probably one of the most eventful politically Decembers I have seen for years. There is so much that has been happening. And some of the things that really attracted my attention was this explosive story carried by the Daily Nation, revealing that actually it was ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga who brought together a very reluctant Uhuru Kenyatta, and President Ruto on one table, resulting in the current working arrangement that we are seeing, where Uhuru boys have been appointed to Ruto's cabinet. Hey! And then regarding Gachagua's political meeting in the Mount Kenya region was disrupted by tear gas. And then we have all these revelations because currently Rigathi Gachagua is in Kakamega, the western region of Kenya, and he is spilling the beans. To quote mafia language, the man is singing like a bird, giving us many insider revelations. For instance, I'm not sure you caught this one, where he has told Kenyans the affordable housing project, oh yes, something that Ruto has really been pushing. In fact, at one point, Kenyans were told, whether you like it or not, you must pay housing levy. Mpende mspende. Okay? Now, Bwana Gachagua is telling us that that one is not supposed to benefit any Kenyans. No. It is a business. And there are some senior officials in government who have shares in these housing projects. There are some senior government officials who own companies that manufacture cement, steel, mabati. You know, all the inputs that go into constructing a house, and of course they're profiting from it. Yeah. Gachagua is really singing and is releasing hit after hit. And then, very fascinating, I'm actually making this recording at the end of a 24-hour period where we have seen 3 major aircraft accidents across the world that are so similar. Okay? There is the South Korea air crash, very unfortunate, which claimed over 179 lives, very tragic, and it involved landing gear of the aircraft. And then there's the Air Canada flight that made an emergency landing at Halifax Stanfield International Airport. And again, the problem was landing gear failing to come out on time. Okay? Fortunately, there were no casualties in that one. And then yet another one involving a passenger plane flying from Norway to Netherlands, which again was in a very similar situation. And again the problem, landing gear. Very odd as we come to the end of this very eventful year 2024. And one wonders what is happening. Anyway, back to Kenyan politics. As we have always said on this channel, a vast majority of these political events are all linked. Okay? And on my show today, we will discover the link between all these things which are happening zinashtua politically in our country. But very quickly before we do that, allow me to acknowledge our sponsors for today's show, which is a prime plot in Eastleigh, Nairobi. Now I'm sure most of us know that Eastleigh has become Eastleigh has become a prime real estate location in the country called Kenya. We are having major projects in the area. Gigantic projects. And of course the price of land in that area has really shot up dramatically and continues to do so at a very rapid rate. Well, we have 100 by 50 plots available in a prime area right opposite St. Teresa's in Isili. And once again the seller is a staunch member of this channel. Now you can see a number on your screen right now. You had better rush to avoid disappointment, and to avoid missing this very good deal for a very prime piece of property that has just become available. Okay? And it is at a very good price for that particular area. Just make that call now and seal the deal. Okay? Right. It is not breaking news that there are very many Kenyans who do not like, who cannot stand former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. However, this is politics. And the situation now on the ground is that Rigathi Gachagua, like it or not, is dominating the narrative of Kenyan politics. The positive narrative in Kenyan politics. And Kenyans are listening to him. Of course, we cannot deny the fact that many other Kenyans have fallen for the propaganda of the Ruto boys, which try to convince Kenyans. The problem in Kenya is not Ruto. The problem in Kenya is the house of Mumbi. That was the narrative. And some Kenyans have fallen for it. Because I believe, if we're to be honest, the problem in Kenya right now, we all know what it is. It is Kasongo. It is not Mount Kenya. It is of course Kasongo and nothing else. Nobody should divert our attention anywhere else. I'm told that there was a time insiders of the president really believed that they could turn this thing around by convincing Kenyans that actually the problem is Mount Kenya, not the current administration. And they really believed that. And maybe they almost succeeded. If you're to believe what you see on social media sometimes. What is happening in Kenya currently spiritually is very scary. Extremely scary. And it has happened before. Many times before. Since the beginning of time. Indeed it is very easy to predict how all this is going to end. Very easy. And you're sure that you're very accurate. But meanwhile, I believe we all need to be very keenly aware that the handlers of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua are on top of their game. And right now, they are extremely busy. Because it is no accident that today Rigathi Gachagua finds himself in a situation where he has the attention of a vast majority of Kenyans. Those who like him, those who don't, those who support him, those whose support for him is lukewarm, those who have ignored him in the past, all of them are listening to Rigathi Gachagua for the simple reason that he was an insider. And this is one of the reasons why it is very difficult to understand the recent actions of this government, which seems to be assisting Rigathi Gachagua to become even more famous, which seem to be assisting Rigathi Gachagua so that even more Kenyans pay attention to what he's saying. Of course, I'm talking about the disruption of his meeting recently, where tear gas was thrown and people scattered. And super fascinating, judging by the actions of some people at that rally, they already knew what was going to happen before it happened. Some of them were very relaxed, even when the tear gas canister landed just next to them. Others, in the main dais, hardly had the canister touched the ground, they had already jumped over the chair in front of them and ran in a certain direction. Is that the right reaction of something that happens unexpectedly? Of course not. I'm telling you the games in Kenyan politics going on right now. eh, difficult to understand, difficult to grasp what the whole objective is. Why would the government assist Rigathi Gachagua? To gain even more fame. Because when you disrupt somebody's meeting, that is exactly what you're doing. Unless you can explain to me what the government would have to gain by frustrating meetings of Rigathi Gachagua. Because I don't understand. I don't see. Now, Bwana Gachagua is currently touring Western Kenya, the Mulembe Nation, and is talking about an alliance between Mount Kenya and the Mulembe Nation. Now, I believe most of us know that the Mulembe Nation have numbers. The only problem the Mulembe Nation have always had is that they scatter their votes. They are never united. But if one day the Luhya community were to vote as one, whoever they'd cast their votes for would win the presidency very easily. And so it is easy to see where Bwana Gachagua is going with this one. Okay? Although in my opinion, it will not work. And I'll tell you why in a minute. In a carefully, intricately planned move, Gachagua is releasing a lot of information. More information than he has ever released while touring the Mulembe Nation, which I believe is no accident. He is telling us a lot of things that we did not know before. Yeah? He's releasing siri za ndani za Ruto regime. He is especially giving us a lot of information about the abductions, okay, which has really gotten Kenyans' attention right now. And there is a lot of hue and cry right across the country about these abductions. Now, it is very instructive that in recent days, President Ruto has moved from a position of telling us he has no idea who is abducting Kenyans. Yeah, you remember that. He has now moved from that position to telling us that the abductions will stop. Now, when somebody tells you something will stop, it is obvious that they will stop it. It is obvious that they already know about it. It is obvious that they have something to do with what is happening. Otherwise, how else would they be so sure that they'll stop it? Yeah? And so Ruto has promised that the abductions will stop. Now, I don't know how serious Ruto is about this, because just a few hours ago, yet another abduction was reported in Nairobi, in the South B area. Not only that, Bwana Gachagua has pointed out, quite rightly so, that despite this promise, we have not seen those Kenyans who had been abducted being released. They are still being held. We have not seen them. Because when you promise something, you're supposed to follow it with action. But of course, many other Kenyans will tell me, Chris, what did you expect? We know this regime. It is just talk, talk, talk. Vasco danganya manenos. They never mean what they say. You know, it is more than fascinating that this abduction narrative, yeah, was pushed through by the government, as I said in an earlier video. And I also gave the reason why. It was supposed to cancel out another narrative which was very threatening to this regime, yeah, which is the 2008 clashes, which involved many, many characters who are very powerful in this particular regime today. But very interesting, this thing seems to have backfired. I am sure the government did not expect the developments we have seen over the last few days. They did not expect, by allowing key security bosses to speak about the abduction and to deny to Kenyans that they have nothing to do with them, and even IPOA being allowed to release the statement that they will follow up with the investigation. The government did not think that things would get out of hand the way they have gotten out of hand, which is yet another example of this government doing something which ends up backfiring very badly on them. And even the narrative that was supposed to be cancelled out is still hanging around at the wings, yeah, waiting to burst back into the limelight. Because, for instance, the nation has carried a story about the children who were conceived from rape cases of 2008. Very sad, very heartbreaking. But you see, those Kenyans are now about 16 years old. It is possible some of them even participated in the Gen Z uprisings we saw in June this year. Very possible. Bottom line, the 2008 clashes story will not go away, even as the abduction story, even as the abduction story and narrative get dangerously out of hand. As far as the government is concerned, there has been so much pressure on Ruto. Too much pressure. And I suspect that is what forced him into a corner where he promised that the abductions have now come to an end. The promise he made, which is still to be fulfilled, still to be delivered to Kenyans. Now, what did I mean when I said earlier that this attempt by Gachagua for an alliance between the Mount Kenya region and the Mulembe nation, what did I mean when I said it will not work? Okay? What I simply meant is that the way Kenyan politics is going, recent developments, clear signs on the ground, we are moving very far away from tribal groupings during voting. It is my very strong belief that in the next election, whenever they'll be held, Kenyans will move away from voting as tribal blocs, and for the first time in our history, we will vote as Kenyans and nothing else. And I also believe that one very strong voting bloc, very huge, colossal voting bloc, will be younger Kenyans, the Gen Zs. I am convinced that their very angry vote will change Kenya forever. And of course what this means is that those people who are busy going around the country, talking and negotiating with the tribal kingpins, attempting to build alliances between this tribe and that tribe, will fail. That is the way politics used to run in Kenya before. But now, going forward, I have good reason to believe it will not work. Remember overturn, overturn, overturn? Oh yes. I believe things in Kenya will never be the same again. Yeah? After what we have gone through and after what we're still going through. Yeah, people will understand how important their vote is, how important it is to vote. And they will seek to vote for people who will be accountable to them, and not to the executive or whoever will be elected as president, as is the case today. You know, one of the things that has really broken the hearts of Kenyans is to discover, as per the article in The Nation, that Raila Odinga played a very key role in bringing together Uhuru Kenyatta, Kenya's fourth president, and the current president, Ruto. He played a very key role in a meeting that we are told took place in the United States of America, in Boston. Okay? And by the way, we should also be careful to ask ourselves why that story was leaked. Because by all indications, and by what I've been able to find out so far, that story was leaked by the Ruto camp. You know, there were details about how President Ruto traveled for over 300 kilometers to be able to meet Uhuru in the US. Please never fool yourself that that article was the work of a journalist who did intensive, serious research. No way. That story was deliberately leaked by the Ruto camp. And therefore the next question we need to ask ourselves is why? What was the objective? In my opinion, amongst the objectives they must have had in mind is to clip the wings, to reduce the influence of Raila Amolo Odinga. And actually, they succeeded. Anyway, my point in bringing this up is that these are some of the things that will force Kenyans, the next time they go to the polls, to completely ignore tribe, to completely ignore the mtu wetu syndrome, which has wreaked so much havoc in our country in the past, which is responsible for so many problems we face in the country today, okay, and which is responsible for the very serious mess we are in as a country today, which will be very difficult, which will take many years to come out of. Yeah, that is the brutal truth. Now, very quickly before I go, we're almost coming to an end, yeah, of the season to gift yours truly, Kumekucha Chris. And I would like to thank so much all those who have already participated and all those who will participate shortly. It has been a very difficult year, and I believe the response has reflected that, and also other factors, yeah, that have unfolded have also reflected that. But I am still very grateful, and I thank Almighty God with all my heart for holding my hand and protecting me and blessing me and anointing me to do what it is I am supposed to do on this earth. Now you can see details on your screens right now. Please remember, there isn't much time left, and this plays a very crucial part in enabling me to do what I do, and especially in preparation for the year 2025, which I can tell you in advance is going to be a very eventful year. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of deception. There's going to be a lot of things to unpack and analyze. And I must prepare, and I must be very focused. And so, I will be very grateful for your help. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.